Good day to all. Teaching and learning have gone through revolutionary changes in the past 2 decades, partly due to technology and partly due to the pandemic and millions of other reasons, or even with the changing kind of audience. Teaching and learning, 21st century learning requirements are quite different. With the intervention of technology and the researches happening in mind and learning, many changes and interventions have happened into teaching methods and curriculum design. These researches have had its implications in teaching in general, and language teaching has also undergone considerable changes with time. The growth of interdisciplinary inquiries and new kinds of scientific collaborations have given rise to plenty of experimentations even in the language classrooms. Though these kinds of educational experiments have gained more visibility in these times, it is not an easy path to travel. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't experiment. Cognitive researchers now spend more time with classroom practitioners validating their theories, and this is a very positive step in educational practices and curriculum design. One such experiment, which has proved to be successful to many practitioners, is trying a language lesson with multiple texts. Using multiple texts to explore a particular lesson is seen to enhance language acquisition along with critical thinking and boost confidence for students to question and to elaborate on their thoughts. This one lesson we tried with grade 10 from the Diary of Anne Frank is an experiment to see what can be done in this line. At the very onset of the lesson, we started with the introduction of 4 terms related to personal writing. They were the diary entry, journal, log and memoir. The lesson has as its focus these 4 types of personal writing, which we tried to develop using the samples given in the text. This will make the students familiar with their own text. Following the introduction to those terms with their explanations, we tried to give an exercise whereby students got a chance to read carefully, identifying minute details, helping them to categorize each sample as a log, as a memoir, as a diary or a journal entry. So here we are helping them to read, comprehend, identify the features and classify. What we introduced next in the lesson was idiomatic expressions. This again is a language component on which emphasis has been placed in the lesson. We attempted to introduce idiomatic expressions, explaining what an idiom means, how certain phrasal verbs can serve the function of idiomatic expressions, and using samples given in the text, we help them to read the meanings of these idiomatic expressions from the context. Using context clues to identify meaning is a skill that students should learn as they advance in their reading. That can naturally bring in a question. Is idiom any good for a student, or is it merely for the sake of examinations? Theoretically, research-wise, empirically, it has been seen that as we advance with our language skills, we get to use idioms with confidence and we understand a native speaker's usage of idioms at the same time. Classroom practices given using prescribed text is an easy way to generate student interest in using idioms. Language component of every lesson must hence be given due emphasis. Other than what is given in the text, students must be made to explore further or critically analyze the usages or even create something on their own, allowing them to explore each language component in their own ways. Through this classroom familiarity of idioms or idiomatic expressions, eventually students will develop familiarity with idiomatic expressions to such an extent that when they are used in conversations, they can immediately grab the meaning. So this will improve their conversational capacity or even the fluency of their conversation. It's good for us to remember that idioms can help improve students' conversational skills because it shows native speakers that we understand the cultural meaning and context behind the idiom we are using. This can help us feel more comfortable and confident with our conversational abilities. Considering 21st century learning skills, this is important because employability in these times has got a lot to do with cultural understanding. After the simple exercise they tried in idiomatic expressions, we gave them a site www.thefreedictionary.com for them to explore idioms and their meanings further. Is this important? Technological intervention has become so strong these days that at times we teachers are digital migrants teaching digital natives. But directing them to the right source is very important in a classroom. So when we give them a website that they can refer to, we are actually allowing them the skill of self-learning. And therefore it is important that we become facilitators of learning by allowing them the opportunity to choose what is best in that particular area. It is equally good if we give them the chance to explore and give the class the best from their side. This will develop their leadership skill. So here English language classroom becomes a real space to develop all the 21st century skills required to make them employable. These are all small steps to a larger goal. In the next slide, we displayed the diary entry with the salutation. Using these slides, students get introduced to the format and style of a diary entry, like the possibility of naming a diary, using a salutation, using sentences which need not be grammatically complete but still meaningful, how they can be a medium to convey deepest personal feelings, etc. It must also be made clear that diary entries are not meant to be shared, though Anne Frank's entries gained popularity as a public document. Following the introduction to the structure of the diary entry, we had asked students to figure out the context, the character and the trauma as depicted in the diary entries. This is meant to provide opportunities for contextual discourse in an input-rich communicational environment. This is something that the NCERT prescribes as the objective of every English language lesson. This task also encourages critical and analytical thinking, questioning skills along with the ability to draw inferences. Herbert Simon had stated that the meaning of knowledge has shifted from being able to remember and repeat information to being able to find and use it. This was stated in 1996. But this has huge implication in times where knowledge is available in plenty to the students. It is also important that we equip the students with the intellectual tools and the learning strategies to make meaning out of what they read. It will be good to remember a particular quote which is observed as a part of a research. I quote, "The goal of education must be better conceived as helping students develop the intellectual tools and learning strategies needed to acquire the knowledge that allows people to think productively about history, science and technology, social phenomena, mathematics and the arts. Fundamental understanding about subjects, including how to frame and ask meaningful questions about various subject areas, contributes to individuals' more basic understanding of principles of learning that can assist them in becoming self-sustaining, lifelong learners." The objective of this lesson was to establish the possibility of using multiple texts to learn or to give a deeper understanding of a particular text. The lesson we had chosen was from the diary of Anne Frank, for which we had chosen a few other resources. There are reasons why such texts are selected for the deeper understanding of a prescribed text. The resources we had selected were a history lesson from grade 9, 2 English movies, and oral history by Svetlana Alexievich. This is an attempt to promote personalized learning. Even though personalized learning is considered to be a very tough practice to be implemented completely, experimenting with small steps is always a welcome change. Using multiple text is also catering to the theory of multiple intelligences. It is a well-known fact that every child approaches learning with a unique mindset. Every child connects with the learning material in his own unique ways, which depends largely on the background he comes from, his prior learning, his perspective and lots of other factors. So when multiple texts are introduced and we offer a slight possibility of a personalized learning path, we are also allowing them to exercise on their unique intelligences, which is seen or proven to facilitate the learning process. So rather than catering only to the linguistically intelligent students, we are catering to the auditory learner, to the visual learner, or any other kind of learning habit that can be present in a classroom.
Hello everyone. Let's see why few terms are introduced here. Few terms which are introduced here is to facilitate extensive reading. Terms like Holocaust, massacre, extermination, concentration camps, ethnic cleansing, genocide, homicide and Auschwitz. Extensive reading involves learners reading texts for enjoyment and to develop general reading skills. It can be compared with intensive reading, which means reading in detail with specific learning aims and tasks. Since they are to read only 3 samples from the diary of Anne Frank, it is important to give them a holistic view of the times and the importance of these entries as a public historic document. Teacher may hence encourage students to read more about anti-Semitism, concentration camps and the whole book of Anne Frank. Above all, the spirit of enquiry is triggered, self-learning is promoted and interdisciplinary approach is promoted, the monotony of the text is avoided. The narration of the movies with the picture on the screen is an exercise for listening skills, and also it helps in acquiring language for narration skills. Using movies as resources has other benefits. Now let us see through the benefits which we have. Films allow students to see life through different perspectives. Films provide a visual aid to understanding historical events. They help students understand concepts like theme, style and genre. Film is a leveler by which the children can relate it no matter what their family background or their learning abilities. Film also can be a gateway to explore complex ideas and open children's eyes to other ways of looking at the world. Young people are increasingly visually literate and the curriculum needs to reflect this. Being the audio-visual version of storytelling, it enhances emotions and therefore sets up the foundation of conveying concepts. It can even help rapport building between teachers and students, fostering open-hearted discussions. There is no end to possibilities in a language classroom. Creativity should be the watchword. So, teachers are the key factor who leads their students depending on their unique context. Include activities that enable children to write comparing the 2 movies, critical appreciations, stylistic features of the diary entry, etc. You can also encourage the use of map work to show political boundaries before, during and after the Second World War and to speak about it to the class. You can also explore the research possibilities by asking them to figure out the gaps between the real texts and the adaptations to promote the habit of validating facts with reliable evidences. Watching movies together as a class along with discussions can bring in a plethora of perspectives, making them engaged into an active learning process. Now, why do we promote such activities? Because it has some long-term goals. For example, reflection, expression of individual opinion, deeper understanding of the text, to go beyond factual comprehension, ability to contemplate on the issues that texts raise, promoting the habit of self-learning, reducing dependence on the teacher. Now let's see few assessments and assignments that can be tried in the class.
Evaluations, assessments and assignments are an integral part of learning. Evaluations and assessments must be made an enabling factor rather than an impediment. It's important that we make them creative. We must ensure that objectives are clearly set with the assessments. Focus can be laid on the language element chosen for the chapter or on the textual content. Since technology and handheld devices provide many opportunities, students can be given a choice of their assignment. Let's look at a few sample assignments or assessment practices that can be done in class. For language practice, we can try a website or any website that you can use. The one I have used here is eslgamesplus.com. This is a site that gives students an opportunity to try their understanding online. Displaying this site on using a projector, students can be made to work as teams, and the benefit of this site is that it allows exercises for the beginner or the advanced learner. Teachers may use such sites to give language practice in class. According to the focus of language practice subscribed by that particular lesson, the choice of the teacher can vary. As a second assessment, what can be done is, students can be asked to pick 5 or few idioms of their choice and trace their historical and cultural origin. Ask them to talk about those idioms and their origin to the class. This enhances research as well as speaking skills as well as understanding of the usage and meaning of idioms. Another activity or assignment that can be given to the students is to collect samples of log from different professions. For example, ask them to collect samples of a pilot's log, a captain's log, a scuba diver's log, etc. This will make them understand that a professional personal entry is different from a diary entry of an ordinary person. A fourth one that can be tried as a part of advancing the learning process is to talk to their regional language teacher to find out a few idioms from their language. See if they have an English counterpart. This will really turn out to be an interesting activity. Whatever they find out, give them chances to present in class. A fear-free environment in class is definitely favorable for great learning. The spirit of inquiry and research can be instilled in these students if we give them carefully selected writing tasks. This is an example of that kind. Number 1, Nazi ideology was synonymous with Hitler's worldview. This is a statement taken from the history textbook. Choose any one movie you have watched with Nazi Germany as its background. Identify scenes, dialogues or actions that reflect the Nazi ideology. Write about it in about 200 words and speak to the class of your observations. A second one can be even more imaginative. Imagine you are Bruno in the movie, the boy in the striped pyjamas. Write a diary entry the day you meet your friend on the other side of the barbed wire. Writing assignments can involve comprehension, analytical thinking, critical thinking, or even creative writing that will help them follow an interdisciplinary kind of research.
Those were a few sample activities a teacher can try in the class. Little steps which we do in the class should be so planned that it has to reach our short-term and long-term plans. Let's remain a resourceful teacher throughout, with the passion to teach and mold young minds never dying in our hearts. Thank you and happy teaching. Till we meet again, bye bye from Ms. Reena and Ms. Vinita.